And good evening, folks. Again, I'm John Smith.
Jason Speedy.
Welcome back to another episode of What's the Call on CHCO-TV.
Yeah.
There we go. Almost goofed that one. So we're going tonight, and I believe we'll be back in probably a week and a half. We'll go on the 29th.
Just in time for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so if you missed the last episode, we kind of did top 5 predictors or top 5 stories of 2017 and top 5
predictions
for
the new year.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a pretty fun show. We both made some pretty bold predictions.
Yeah.
But now the World Juniors and all that stuff is kind of surpassed. First round of the NFL playoffs has gone by. So we'll kind of jump into what's happened over the week and a half in between the show, and then we'll kind of get into some analytics stuff.
Okay.
So with the World Juniors, I guess for those of you that watched, Canada won gold for the second time, I think, in 4 years. Great game. I mean, they beat Sweden. I guess the biggest story coming out of that was Sweden's captain kind of throwing his silver medal into the
Well,
stands.
He didn't kind of throw it. He threw it.
He threw it. Lucky fan caught it, though.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a nice momentum to take home with you. You get a silver medal from
the only
World
guy
Juniors.
in the whole place wearing a USA jersey, but par for the course over there.
It happens, so with that kind of happening, what was your take on it? Is it poor sportsmanship? I mean, they didn't even shake Team Canada's hand after the fact either.
Right.
So do you think they're kind of sore losers by doing this, or do you kind of understand too a little bit? You lose probably the biggest game of your career to this point. You're probably not going to be happy, but.
Yeah, well, yes. Now, and I was talking to a friend over the weekend there, and I didn't know that after he threw the medal away that he went and sat there crying, I guess, which, I mean, I understand frustration, disappointment, all that sort of stuff, but there's no shame in losing to Team Canada with a minute and a half in the gold medal game, right? I mean, it's disappointing, but there's no shame in that. That's,
it's not like you lost 8-2.
Well, yeah, exactly, and there's a couple cliches and things like that. Like, I mean, it isn't always about second place is the first loser and that sort of stuff. Like, yes, it is a 10-nation, 10-team tournament. You come in second. They're expected to medal every year, as well they should be. Team Sweden has been consistently throughout Olympics and juniors and Spengler Cups and all these other world championships, and they're always right there. Sam, Russia, really not so much them over the last 2 decades, I would say, but Team Finland and the States and stuff like that, right? So there's no shame in coming in second. Like, you lost in the gold medal game, really came down to the wire.
Couple of bad bounces.
I mean, someone's got to lose. You know what I mean? And but. So yes, I do think it was poor sportsmanship that there was no, handshaking and congratulating, the eventual winner and stuff like that. I mean, that's a lesson in being mature and being adult, and something that will serve those young men going forward. However, I did the act of throwing the medal was. I wouldn't condone it. I don't think it was the right thing to do. However, in this culture of everyone gets a medal, everyone gets a ribbon, everyone gets a pat on the back for coming in dead last and sucking or being the very best. There's no separation between, excelling as opposed to just not being good, right?
Yeah.
In youth sports to...
Right up through.
Right up through. And I think that is a detriment. I do. So I thought it was kind of not refreshing or good that he threw that and that he didn't want to settle for second place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think he should, that's not the time or the place to do that, I guess. But I did think,
I agree.
I don't know how to get it out right without, kind of being hypocritical in what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like talking out of both sides of my mouth. But I don't know. I don't think he should have done it. I don't think.
I'm with you. I had more of a problem with the not shaking hands and like, I mean, I agree. Like maybe you don't want the second place medal. Like, so I get that. Like,
so just take it off and just
put it in
whatever.
your pocket,
you know what I mean? Do it, give it away or whatever.
But I really in all sports, I think the handshake is a huge part of sportsmanship. You go out and you put everything on the line, and then when you're done, if you lose, say good job, bud. I gave it everything I had. So that's where I had more of the issues. Just be more of a sportsman and shake hands.
Yep, and that's the thing when you do kind of do that sort of thing. You do become better a little bit. I mean.
Yeah, it sucks.
I've been a poor sport, and I've tried to combat that. And when you do kind of give in to your pride and that sort of stuff, looking back, you should feel better for being mature and doing the right thing.
I agree 100%. So
anyway, Team Canada did win.
Yeah,
I don't think they were necessarily. I mean, they're quote unquote favored every year but I mean, I don't necessarily know that they were favored in the year. I know the states had beaten them, so
that was kind of a lucky game a little bit too.
Well, fair enough. But
I agree, Canada really wasn't like the quote unquote favorites this year. Just they didn't have a top guy and they're like a top 10 forward in their ranks as they usually do. They were just a very well balanced team. They come together really well, played for each other, and I mean it was a well-deserved gold medal. USA, I believe, ended up with the bronze to beat Czech Republic in the bronze medal game, and then Sweden obviously finished second. So I mean it was a great tournament. I believe ticket sales again were kind of an issue being in Buffalo. Just it's kind of, I don't know. There's just the World Juniors, the ticket sales over the last 4 or 5, 6 years haven't been where they'd expect them to be. So
has that been over here as well?
Yeah. Even Winnipeg, I think it was last year. It's just it's not getting the marquee that it used to. But I mean, they're charging NHL prices for junior games,
and they're not. And I don't like and you kind of allude to the marquee names like the McDavids and the Crosbys, and that would have come through and played in those tournaments. Now they're in the NHL, and the NHL isn't. The teams aren't releasing them to allow them to go play in that tournament necessarily, and you're losing some of that. The big names that would be the draws, right? So,
but I mean, it was a great tournament. Now we'll jump right into kind of the football matchups. I mean, what happened last weekend, and then kind of go into what's we think could happen this year, or this weekend, not this year.
Well, technically you're not wrong.
So last weekend, I guess, what was the biggest surprise for you? Was it...
Well, I think as far as biggest surprises, I mean, Tennessee going in and beating Kansas City was a surprise, especially being down 21-3 at half. I guess when you peel back the layers, you can kind of see how it did happen. Kansas City had lost 6 straight playoff home games. Andy Reid's known for being a great regular season coach, but
can't quite get over the hump.
Consistently coming up short in the playoffs. When Travis Kelce went down in the first half and was lost for the rest of the game, that changed their whole, their whole scheme. Kareem Hunt only had, 13, 14 touches in the game. Not many, running plays. I mean, the guy led the league in rushing, so you would think you would get. Well, you would think, right? Tennessee's defense, not the greatest, not the worst in the league, but not the greatest. So I mean, commit to something and keep going, right? A lot of the big plays that was in the first half just weren't there in the second half at all. They just really went flat after Kelce was taken out. Their kicker missed a field goal, which would have technically, I guess, made him win by 2. When a quarterback throws a touchdown to himself, you're pretty much screwed.
First time in NFL playoff history, I believe, that Marcus Mariota, passed it, deflected, caught it, and run it in. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that'll make a great trivia question years down the road. Who was Marcus Mariota's first touchdown pass to? Like in the postseason. So, I mean, that was a pretty good story.
So that was the biggest one. I mean, now, of course, just like it seems to happen just about every year, New England's got another cupcake game, at home.
That was going to be my next question, kind of with Tennessee and New England. Do you give Tennessee any bit of a chance? I mean, I seen DeMarco Murray still out for this game as well.
No, I don't. I mean, Derrick Henry is a good backup, and he is a load.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably
and he performed phenomenally.
Oh yeah, and he's probably just as big as most, if not all, of New England's, defensive line linebackers. I mean, he's just a huge, huge man.
Yeah.
And the only way they have a chance is if their defense comes out on top. Mariota's smart with the ball. They control, the ball and run it down New England's throat.
Well, and I mean, kind of, they're a young team as well. So, I mean, with like the LA Rams, they kind of had 2 early turnovers in the first half. And I mean, that I think kind of came back to bite them. So, I mean, as long as Tennessee can maybe avoid the early letdown, then they might, the longer they can stay in the game, the better the chance they have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it being, I think the spread's 13.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I see New England covering that one with ease, and we're going to get to the story about New England there later on, but I mean, that's just another, stupid people lighting a fire under the best team. Like, I don't understand, but I mean, they'll have an easy one this weekend, I think.
I found the most entertaining game was New Orleans and Carolina. That game was some fun to watch.
Yep.
Did it surprise you at all that New Orleans come out on top? Did you maybe see Carolina being the better team?
Well, I think Carolina. I mean, I know a couple weeks ago, well, maybe even last week, I was pretty high on Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised. Well, I mean, not surprised. I mean, New Orleans had the toughest schedule in this league this year. They won their division. Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer. They have awesome playmakers in Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
And they're Michael Thomas. So they have great. They have a very well balanced team. They do have all the pieces. They have Lattimore, who might be, Defensive Player of the Year. So it's not really that surprising, but they kind of got lucky too. I mean, Sean Payton went for it 4th and 2, and that didn't work out.
Yep.
And Cam Newton had a really good start to the drive at the end of the game. If they score a touchdown there, they would have won, and it just stalled out.
Yeah, well, and I think their kicker missed a chip shot right at the beginning of the game too.
That's right.
And
so, I mean, and they were settling for field goals when maybe they could have tried to go for on a 4th and whatever, and it just didn't work out. Cam Newton had a great game, but he kind of spit the bed at the end. Got flagged for got flagged for the intentional grounding with the 10-second runoff. That really made a difference.
34 seconds left at the time.
Yeah, so I mean, but the thing is, they have they don't really have much of an offense other than Greg Olsen. I mean, Devin Funchess was their premier wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, where would he rank in
throughout the league?
Not very high. And their running game just stinks. I mean, Jonathan Stewart is not,
a premier back.
Not at all. So, so I mean, I guess that one was kind of a toss-up.
Yeah.
I thought Carolina had a little bit more of mojo going for them towards the end of the year, but New Orleans. I mean, if they get through this game, I think it's them and New England Super Bowl.
That'd be pretty interesting.
It'd be a really good.
Two Hall of Fame quarterbacks going against each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was a really fun game to watch anyway. So.
Oh yeah.
Did it surprise you as well that the Rams lost?
It did. I think the lack of an experience, the lack in the experience of being there and doing that before.
Well, and I mean, Atlanta was just there the year before too.
For sure. So. And I mean, they have extremely good playmakers. You had referenced LA kind of coughed the ball up a couple times in the first half. Maybe that was nerves and just the game speeding up on them. So being there and going through the motions.
Helps them for next year.
Well, yeah, exactly. And, I think it does make an impact, whereas Matt Ryan, has been there, can probably slow things down a little bit. He's been through the situation before, as well as most of his teammates, you know.
Well, and I mean, he didn't have a spectacular game. I don't think really anybody on Atlanta had too crazy of a game, but they were very consistent and efficient when they needed to be.
Oh, so. Yeah. They scored. Yeah, they put points on the board when they had an opportunity to. Yeah. The Rams didn't. You know, I know towards closing towards the end of the first half there, I think they settled for a field goal when they were first and goal within the, really close to the goal, with a few, 20 seconds, and they just couldn't get a touchdown. So, it's those types of things that makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, 10 yards can change a game. So.
Sure, yeah.
Now looking forward to this week, I mean, there's 8 teams left. The first matchup we've got down here is Atlanta versus Philly.
You didn't want to talk about Buffalo and Jacksonville?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Buffalo and Jacksonville.
Well, how could you forget about Buffalo?
Well, I mean, Jacksonville played great defense. I mean,
I think that's
Buffalo was kind of inept at scoring. There was a bit of drama there, too, with Incognito and Nagao, or I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. I'm not going to bother trying to embarrass
probably
myself.
Butcher it worse than I did, but
it was somebody on the offensive.
But I mean, he seems like he's kind of a bit of a drama fella for NFL as well. Incognito. It's not the first time that he's been.
Well, I mean, he just seems like the epitome of. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna. I was gonna, use derogatory name calling, but I'll be above that. I mean, he just seems like like a typical.
That game really was kind of.
I mean, but look, some people have a moral compass, and some people have, their own guidelines of what they won't say or do, and some people don't. And some people's are further along the trough than others. And if he needs to resort to being racist and being a bully like he was with the Dolphins and all that sort of stuff, that just goes to show what type of person he is. And maybe it's a little bit of it is embellished and stuff, but I'd be, nobody would ever say that about me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or you, right? You know what I mean? So you don't leave it up to doubt. You know what I mean? Like, if
so with kind of the Bills, I mean, we kind of alluded to that their offense was non-existent that game. Do you see them kind of going out this summer and maybe making a big move?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, there's going to be some quarterbacks out there, right? I mean, I think you're going to see
giving up on Tyrod Taylor.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if he's a free agent this year or next year, but I mean, they can pretty much cut him. I think you're going to see Alex Smith move on from Kansas City.
Yeah, I was going to ask that one too.
I think Kirk Cousins is going to be moving on from Washington. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a free agent. Case Keenum, Sam Bradford, and Teddy Bridgewater, all from Minnesota, are all free agents. You know what I mean? So there
should be some quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if they believe in the backup Nathan Peterman at all. I mean, he's looked very bad in his few opportunities, and maybe they pick somebody in the draft. You know what I mean? Maybe they go draft
I think there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks that have already kind of declared for the draft. So
there's always a couple every draft class. You just got to be lucky enough and have good scouting to see it and pick them, right?
So do you give Jacksonville any credit for this win, or just kind of?
Well, I mean, somebody had to win. I mean, and they won at home. Bortles played okay. I mean, he made the plays when he needed to. Buffalo's defense wasn't terrible. But, I think Leonard Fournette's not 100% healthy. They did lose their top 2 wide receivers to injury earlier in the year. So, I mean, that affects their schemes and stuff, right? When they did beat Pittsburgh in week 2 or 3, I mean, they had the benefit of picking off Roethlisberger 5 times and taking 2 back for touchdowns. Don't think that's going to happen this upcoming weekend.
No. So now we'll get into the playoffs. Atlanta versus Philly is kind of the first matchup that we have here. Philly finished off the season, I mean, not as hot as they were, but I mean, they're missing their starting quarterback. Vegas has them as the underdogs, even though they, I think, 13 and 3 or 14 and 2.
13 and 3.
13 and 3, yeah. Do you kind of agree with the assessment now, like that Atlanta's the favorite and Philly's the underdog. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Philly beat Atlanta earlier this year, and at home. So I mean, Atlanta will have a little bit of familiarity with playing it, in Philly. I mean, yeah. What can you say? I mean, any team that loses their starting quarterback going up against the final 8 teams in the league. I mean,
but I mean, Nick Foles has proven himself to kind of be a capable quarterback, and I mean, Philly does have a good defense. They have good offensive players too. I mean, if Nick Foles can kind of just be consistent or average, to me, I still have Philly as the best.
I think they can win this game. I don't know about
the next
beating
one.
New Orleans or Minnesota. It's going to be tough. But I mean, I can't really be objective about this. I'm pulling for Philly.
Yeah.
I
am too.
I can't say that I think that Atlanta's going to go in and mop the floor with them or anything. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think the weather's going to be an issue for either team at all. I expect a close one.
Yep. I'm going for the Eagles for you on this one. So the next matchup we have here is New Orleans and Minnesota. Yep. I think this will probably be the marquee matchup of this divisional round.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Minnesota's played really good all season long.
Yep.
New Orleans, I mean, they've been consistent as well. And I mean, we kind of touched on it with their offensive weapons. And I mean, Drew Brees being Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. It still amazes me too. He has the most plays this season of over 30 yards, I think, and I mean he's 38 or something. 39,
yeah, well, he's third all time in passing yards.
Yeah,
he's
it would be nice
to. Hall of Famer.
Do you see if, say, let's just go kind of a little further down the road, if New Orleans wins it all, do you see Brees kind of going out on top, or do you still see?
Well, I don't know. He's a free agent too, right? Yeah. So I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, he's probably got a couple, 2 or 3 years left in him. I mean, that would depend on where they end up this year. What's the plan? Is he that tied to Sean Payton? You know what I mean? Like that. So, I mean, I haven't heard anybody mention that he's considering retirement. I mean,
if you ever go out on top, I think, or I mean, if you ever win and you're getting near that borderline, I think that'd be the best
he definitely made enough
so.
money, and he will have a future either on TV or in football somewhere. Yeah. Maybe getting out while the getting out's good. Is a wise idea.
Who do you like going into this matchup, New Orleans or Minnesota? Do you kind of see Minnesota?
I think the Saints are going to come out and win. I don't know necessarily why. I have a feeling that this week off, this break for Minnesota is going to kind of
hurt them more.
Yeah. And again, Case Keenum, he's never been in this situation before.
Well, I mean, they're a young team too, still. So. And
maybe, right? Maybe that's just
2 quick picks or something.
Exactly. You get down 10, and it's hard to come back, especially when in the playoffs when the game kind of speeds up.
Well, and I think it makes a difference too if your team's been there, done that sort of thing. Like I mean, Peyton's been in the playoffs, like the coach. So I mean, he would have an idea too if they get up early or something, kind of how to. Run the game out, Brees. If they get behind early, like I mean, he's a gunslinger. I mean, so that's the matchup that's really kind of intriguing me the most.
And it's going to be played in the dome.
Windows closed.
The elements aren't going to be an issue for New Orleans.
Yeah. And then I mean, we kind of alluded on Tennessee and New England.
Yeah, I don't see any one of these games really being that entertaining, other than for daily fantasy purposes or. Pro line or whatever.
And then, I mean, same as Jacksonville, Pittsburgh. I mean, another team that's kind of been there, done that before as well, against a team that really hasn't quite made it that far.
Yeah, the AFC is kind of like the NBA playoffs. Yeah. Let's just cut out all the noise and just have New England, Pittsburgh play. That's who it was going to be all year long, because the AFC really is terrible. Yeah. And let's just be done with it, just.
So, I mean, providing that all goes the right way. New England, Pittsburgh, how do you see that matchup kind of playing out? Do you see New England as the clear-cut favorites again?
Yeah, I don't think Pittsburgh can go into New England and come up with it. I mean, they seem to pretty much rely on they have the great players, but I mean, they don't have any good history with New England over the last.
No. Well, I mean, I think the only team that's really beat them is kind of the Giants. So I mean, throughout the AFC playoffs. So.
Denver, it's New England. It's New England until it's not New England, right?
Pretty well.
Yeah.
So now we'll get into kind of some of the stories that are going on in football.
Yeah.
The biggest story, I guess, for like New England is just the story about the discord between Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Robert Kraft. I mean, there's apparently a disconnect between Belichick and Kraft, and then there's a disconnect between Belichick and Brady over his trainer, Tom Brady's trainer. Rumors that Belichick doesn't plan on, or they don't want Belichick back next year. So, I mean, do you buy any of this story, or is it just a pile of hullabaloo, I guess?
Well, I don't believe any of it. I think it's just the fact of the matter is Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
They had to wait to see if, right up until the trade deadline, if Brady was going to not, be Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And or get hurt. Well, he didn't, and he's probably going to be the MVP this year. So they had to make a move. Did they get as much for Garoppolo as they could?
Probably
no,
not.
But
I mean,
they had to keep him as a safety blanket just in case, right?
Yeah.
So they had to wait. They waited to the last minute. They traded him. They traded him to the NFC on the West Coast. They put him in a decent situation where he was going to play. That was kind of an olive branch to him or whatever, right? He went out and played great, went 5-0. He's going to make himself a whole lot of money this offseason, but his future was never going to be in New England. The timing just didn't set up right. Tom Brady isn't going to retire until someone rips that jersey off his back. Now, I know in that story they kind of, from what I have read and heard, that he might play for somebody. He's not playing with anybody else. I don't think. I know other greats have, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, these, but he's a different breed.
Yeah.
I see him transitioning into his own. I mean, he's already got his own branding, the TB12 and all that sort of stuff. So I think once he's done football, when they tear the jersey off him, that'll be that.
Yeah.
I think him and Belichick are married together. I think Belichick will outlast Brady because I think Belichick's like 65.
Yeah.
Now, will he outlast him and stay in
New England?
New England? Tough to say. Maybe he wants a new challenge. I can't imagine, like 0.00%. And maybe, he goes back to New York where it all started for him and finishes out his coaching career there in a few years. But, I mean, I don't see anything interrupting other than an injury or other health issue interrupting the Patriots' dominance for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I think Brady, I don't think anybody's really come out and said it, but to a point, he wants the records, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, he's so close, and, I mean, I think he can get there for, pass completions, yardage, touchdowns, that sort of stuff. And I think that stuff matters, right?
Well, I think once you're kind of...
He says that he doesn't.
They all say that he doesn't.
But
I mean, once you're on the top or near the top,
when you're
I think
as competitive as he is, there's no way that it doesn't not mean something to him.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no way that it doesn't cross your mind when you're that close or near the top. Like,
sure.
Especially, I mean, you might not mean as much to you in your first 3 years or something, but when you get near the end of your career and you're that close, I think it really means more to players than what they let on.
I mean, clearly, his top priority is winning the Super Bowl every year.
Yeah.
And as I would say, a vast majority of players, that is their primary goal. But you also play for your name in the record books and stats and that sort of stuff. Everyone loves their own stats.
Yeah, why not?
Especially when they're good.
And then kind of the couple more stories, and then we'll hit a break, and then we'll come back and talk some baseball, hockey, and basketball. John Gruden did end up signing with the LA Raiders. 10 years, $100 million.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
Flat wrong.
Do you good hire, or is it more of a fan, like a PR hire?
Oh, it's definitely all PR. If he makes it past 5 years, I'll be surprised.
I mean, his his introduction was pretty blown up, and
oh yeah.
I mean,
big effing deal, I do believe.
But I mean, to me, it is kind of a fan thing, but he was a good coach too, and I mean, he has a really...
He was a good coach for 2 years.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he has a really good work ethic too. Like, he's one of those guys that'll be up till 3 or 4 in the morning just going over game film.
But the players have changed.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's been a while since he's
17 years.
You know, so been on the sidelines. It's a whole different type of personality out there nowadays, dealing with social media. And just the athletes nowadays are.
Oh, I think he'll love social media. He seems like one of those kind of guys.
I don't know. The way things are nowadays, it's just every day.
A new story.
And it's.
He does seem like he's excited to work with Derek Carr. So, I mean, we'll see if maybe a harder coach maybe brings Carr back to where he was the season before. So, should be interesting to watch them. I think there's only 2 years left in.
It's definitely going to, get them on national, national attention a little bit more and that sort of stuff. Be interesting to see who takes over for him for Monday Night Football. But, I can definitely see the benefits of doing it.
Let's go Peyton Manning for Monday Night Football.
That's right, yeah.
And then, I mean, we kind of alluded to this earlier as well. Kirk Cousins, we believe, is probably out of Washington now. Where do you see him going? Anywhere?
Tough to say. It depends on who the first domino falls, where, the first available quarterback goes and who what team fills their need first. Do you see them tendering him
one more year? Because, I mean, I think he has one more year left with the franchise tag.
But he would have made upwards of $75, $80 million over the last 3 years and getting paid like the best player in the, league, which he is not. I just can't see them. I mean, really, he's kind of hamstrung the Redskins. I mean, he's taking up so much of their payroll, they can't afford to go out and.
Well, they should just sign the guy. I mean, if they want to keep him,
he doesn't want to stay there.
Yeah, well.
No, I know. I'm just saying, but so it's time to move on.
Yeah,
it's time.
And then, I mean, we've talked about this all season. Just the ratings are down in the NFL, and I mean, there's probably numerous factors.
There is.
The protests, I think it probably turned some people off. I mean, and then the teams not being really as competitive. I mean, you're still the same 8 teams pretty well, or 6 teams.
Oh, yeah. There's not, there is parity, but, the quality of the games just haven't been that good.
No.
I mean, people watch for fantasy nowadays as opposed to necessarily rooting for their own team, and that sort of thing. And, people don't like the disingenuous attitude when it comes to player safety. And, we all know that they don't care. Yeah. I mean, Cam Newton his eyes were in the back of his head the other day, and they rolled him right back out there in 3 minutes. It's like they didn't go through the protocol, whatever the case is, and they didn't. Because they don't care. And
no, I mean, money is money to them.
And the teams aren't going to just say, you got to sit down, son, you got to, or whatever, right?
Yeah, well,
they're going to be like, can you go?
That team will still be there, and I mean, once the player's gone, that team will still be there.
Absolutely,
yeah. But with that, that's kind of our football wrap-up, and I mean, we did the World Juniors as well. When we come back, we will do the Major League Baseball. There's a few trades that have happened, and then, I mean, hockey and basketball. I mean, the All-Star Game's coming up for hockey, and then there's some stories, too, with the NBA.
Yeah.
When we go to break, Amelia Welch will have the high school sports update, and then when we come back, like I said, we'll talk about all that other stuff. So.
Perfect.
Hello, high school sports fans. I'm Amelia Welch, and welcome back to this week's Sports Update. First up, in St. Stephen, the varsity boys basketball team was named champions this past weekend in Macadam at the John Smith tournament. The team had an 81-61 over Macadam and beat Ormukto High School 74-56. The boys took another close win against Ecole St. Anne. Congratulations to the whole team for a very successful weekend. At Sir James Dunn Academy, both boys and girls basketball teams took the trek up to Minto for a basketball tournament. The girls and boys made it a successful tournament by advancing into the finals, as both teams were undefeated throughout the weekend. Both took home the winning titles of the tournament. MVP was awarded to the boys' team captain, Max Richards, and MVP award for the girls' team was presented to Brooke Reed. Congratulations to both teams for exciting basketball. In other sports news, the county speed skating club, St. Croix Blades, will be hosting their annual meet at the W.C. O'Neill Arena in St. Andrews on January 11th and 12th. If you are around in the community, make sure to get out and watch some exciting races and check out the silent auction table to support the club. That's all I have for you this week. I'm Amelia Welch for High School Sports on CHCO. Back to you guys at the sports desk.
John Smith.
I'm Jason Speedy.
So if you missed first half, you missed our football and World Junior Hockey talk, but we'll jump right into the thick things with some baseball trades and possible trades that could happen. I guess the biggest one for us here in Canada, or most of us Canadians, I guess, would be
the only one that's happened.
Yeah, Solarte to the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
What is your take on this trade? I mean, does it help them a lot? I mean, it gives them a little more.
It doesn't
depth.
help them a lot. Oh yeah, it gives them more depth. It gives them a backup infielder for when Tulowitzki eventually goes out for his 2 months.
And I mean, Devin Travis has been another one that's been very kind of inconsistent with staying in the lineup.
Yeah.
So.
And when they eventually trade Josh Donaldson, it'd be somebody to play third base.
I really hope they don't trade Donaldson. I mean, I do agree that it probably is coming. But
pony up the money, but
yeah,
they're not going to do that. So. Come July 31st, if he makes it, the Jays better be very much in contention if he's going to play out the year there, and they're not going to flip him to get some prospects. But good trade for them. I mean, is it going to make a huge impact? Not necessarily, but it's good infield depth. He can play around the infield. He seems like a pretty good, quiet team guy. Average stats. I mean, nothing that really pops off the page, but he's a good major league player, and somebody that's probably going to be under control for a couple of years. So it was a good move for him.
Travis and Tulowitzki stay healthy, is there still space for him? How do you think they'll kind of?
Well, I mean, I think they'll find room for him.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Smoke at first, Donaldson at third, Morales is their DH. And Martin's catch. Maybe he could fill in the outfield every once in a while. Time will tell, but I don't.
And then I guess there is an almost trade. It's not 100% sure if it's going to happen now or not. With Cole going to the Astros from Pittsburgh.
Cole, yeah.
Do you see this happening, or do you think it was just
who knows?
Smoke
Who knows? I mean, nothing. Literally, there's been nothing in the last 3 weeks that's happened in baseball that's been really that consequential. I mean, I know Wade Davis signed with the Rockies. Longoria got traded. The Stanton thing seems like it was many moons ago. You know what I mean? So there's just nothing happening. There's zero happening. It's just a bunch of rumor and it's just like grasping at straws to try and come up with these stories that just make no sense. Like when they were talking about Manny Machado being traded to the Red Sox because Dave Dombrowski worked with Dan Duquette with the Expos 25, 30 years ago.
I did hear an interesting story.
I don't understand how that made. What's that?
I did read an interesting story about Machado, just with him wanting to be shortstop, and then they already have a full-time shortstop.
Well, they would
just
Machado came up through the system as a shortstop, but the Orioles already had J.J. Hardy there, who was coming off a Silver Slugger and Gold Glove, and they were in the playoffs. So he, made the move to third, but he wants to play short. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to the Red Sox.
No.
Because he's not going to sign and stay there. And that, I would think, if they were smart at all, because, they would have to give up Bogarts, probably Jackie Bradley, and probably some other high prospect. They would have to have it a guarantee that he would sign an extension, and he's not going to do that. And they're not going to trade him to your division rival. They hate the Red Sox. Buck Showalter, right? Peter Angelo's, right? They hate him.
Yeah.
So they're not going to trade him there. They'll probably trade him to the Yankees because for decades it seems like any team that's willing to get rid of any star players, let's call the Yankees and see if they want him first. Heaven forbid, trade him to Milwaukee or something.
Yeah.
So it's just, they came out with the story that it's all but done, and then an hour later, oh no, this story is completely false, blah blah blah. So it's just the world we live in. You can say anything about anybody. You can do anything, and there's no accountability. You can float these out here. I can tell you right now, my sources say Jose Bautista is going to be signing with, a team in Japan.
Yeah.
Or whatever, that's almost as ludicrous as all this stuff is. Like, there's no substance to it.
Yeah.
There hasn't been.
No.
Until they're signed on the dotted line, I don't really pay much attention to it anymore. Yeah. How can you?
Well, there's so much.
It's all speculation.
There's so many avenues too to get speculation out nowadays. Yeah. Like, it's just anybody can post something on any social media site, any Twitter, whatever, Instagram, and then it's out there, and then just somebody picks up with it and just runs with it.
Yeah. So. Well, this Christian Yelich, he's a stud young outfielder for the Marlins. I read a story the other day that there's up to 12 teams interested in him. Shocking. He's like an all-star, controllable money, like 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Great kid. Who wouldn't want him? So, but what difference does it make? Of course 12 teams are interested.
Yeah. And I've read that a lot of the Marlins don't want to go through this rebuild now. Yelich being one of them, Castro being another.
Well, hey, you know what? I don't really, okay, you can come take my job and I'll go play second base for the Marlins. How about we do that?
Yeah.
And you can make my money, I'll make yours.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, I love my job and all that sort of stuff, but like, sorry about your luck, pal, but
it happens.
That's what it's a business. They'll be the first ones to tell you, and you're still going to get your pay.
So
pull up your stats, and maybe they'll accommodate you, but the Yankees didn't want you. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, all these players calling their shots and stuff, and now I don't want to be here. Yeah. Well, don't sign the contracts. Sign one-year deals, or, go through what these guys are going through right now. Spring training's in like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And, not the greatest crop of free agents, but you have a lot of
guys
good players that are going to make impacts on teams that don't have a job yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been a really slow off season. So
it's almost like there's collusion between the general managers to wait them out and drive down the price.
Yeah, you never know. There's collusion in the NFL, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's
I'm surprised that story hasn't been out there as much as I would think. I just don't understand any other reasoning for it. Yeah. Every year, clubs just throw away money on mediocre players. Every year.
Yeah.
This would be the first year that it hasn't happened. It's just, I can't imagine that every team's doing the overcorrect. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine. But.
And then pretty well the last thing that we have on the baseball docket is just the Hall of Fame vote is released, I believe, the 24th.
Yep.
So we'll get to know how you did on your picks this year. I think last year you were perfect on them. So
yeah, I think I've been pretty bang on there the last couple of years. Yeah. I've kind of. Again, that's it's just ridiculous. Now they're saying, "Oh, Mike Mussina's gaining steam and stuff." He wasn't worthy the last 8 years, and now because he's getting close to his eligibility requirements, all of a sudden
he's gaining steam.
He was a very good pitcher. Don't get me wrong. He was a really good pitcher for the era that he pitched in, but.
It's not the Hall of really good.
Well, it's becoming that. Yeah.
So we got about 10 minutes left, so we'll get into some basketball and tie up a little bit on hockey. Mm-hmm. The All-Star game's coming right up in hockey. It's 28th. The team was released today, so there's a couple of things I want to touch on that. But we'll get into basketball first. I guess the biggest story kind of right now is just how poorly the Cavs are kind of going into their mid-season funk. They seem to always do. And then also the Astros are kind of slowing down a bit as well. Just those are probably the two biggest stories really for me in terms of teams.
Well, James Harden being out is going to impact that,
for sure.
But the Cavaliers, they're trying to work Isaiah Thomas back into the mix, and going on the road and getting smoked by Minnesota does not look good. Until they're beat in May or June, you can't really count them out. But you're right. They go through this every year, and then it's a big crisis and stuff. And general manager LeBron James will start.
And we need a backup.
Crying and complaining that he needs more more to work with, I guess, having Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade and Kevin Love and Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith, Channing Frye.
I mean, even
Shumpert.
Jose Calderon's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, having all that.
And
those are all familiar names.
Yeah.
You couldn't name 8 other guys on any NBA team right now. No. Not you specifically, but I mean, I'm just saying, general, you know what I mean? But you can on that team because they all have big names, right?
Yeah, and the only way you'd be able to is if it was your team. Like, I mean, you wouldn't be able to go up to, like, a random fan and just be like, name me 8 guys off of the Timberwolves or 8 guys off of the Bulls. Like, you might be able to name 3 off the Bulls. Like, so,
I probably could. But.
Yeah. The average NBA fan. You could probably name all 12 guys on all 30 teams.
I wouldn't go that
It'd be
far,
close.
But yeah.
And then, I mean, I guess with the Cavs, too, there's been some drama with Isaiah. I mean, he got ejected last night or night before against the Timberwolves for a flagrant on the back of Andrew Wiggins. And then I guess another story with Isaiah Thomas for me was just they wanted to do the video tribute for him the game after he come back. He says, I don't want the video tribute because I'm not going to be playing. It's the second night of back-to-back. Do it next time I'm in Boston, which happens to be Paul Pierce's jersey retirement. And Pierce kind of speaks out and says, I don't want that to happen on my night.
Of course not. Absolutely.
So, whose side do you kind of fall on here? Do you think that
Isaiah Thomas is a drama queen. I mean, he just, not taking anything away from what he went through last year in the playoffs. I mean, that was, I mean, that aside,
that takes a lot.
Aside, I mean, he's done nothing but be a nuisance in his previous places in Phoenix and Sacramento. He's trying to, call the shots. Just look, he was there for 2 years. Big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
they don't even
they
really
didn't
need
win anything with him there. You know what I mean? Like, he put his heart and soul into the team and he played his butt off. Well, that's what you get paid the money to do.
Well, and I mean, you should do that for every team you play for.
Absolutely.
Like, every player should kind of
him trying to hold the Celtics organization hostage about when they do this tribute and stuff. How about we don't do a tribute at all? Yeah. You're here for 2 years. Your number's not going up in the rafters. Yeah. In another 5-6 years, people are going to forget you even played here. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of on both sides too. Just I think it's a little
I think
childish of Paul Pierce to be like, oh, I don't want it on my night either. Just
I mean, he's going to be an NBA Hall of Famer. Yeah. He will have his number retired.
I just don't see that.
I mean, I think he could have probably. Well, I mean, he could have probably didn't have to go public with it. He probably could have worked that message through the back channels and gone. I don't think the Celtics would have done that or would have treated that anyway. I mean, you can't do 2 things like that in the same night. I mean, and furthermore, I mean, Isaiah had the choice. Come back and play. Play 5 minutes against the Celtics. Or don't play at all. Okay. Your first game back could have been against Boston, not against Portland the night before. That was your choice, or your management's, team's choice, or whatever. Not the Celtics. You can't.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Too,
so I mean, I think these tributes and all these, that's getting a little bit overdone too.
I mean, I loved the Kobe tribute though. I mean, with the double jersey retirement.
I mean, the double jersey retirement was a little bit too much, but pick a number, man.
Well, I mean, his stats on both numbers were pretty even, and I mean,
hey, look.
Yeah, we could get into this. Couple more stories too. Unfortunately, we got to talk about LeVar Ball again. I mean, we don't have to, but I mean, it is a pretty good story. Just him calling out Luke Walton and saying pretty well the players don't want to play for him. He's too young. He's not a good coach. But my biggest issue with kind of this is just that ESPN run the story, and I mean, they didn't get any inside information from any of the players, any of the GMs, just LeVar Ball's opinion. And I mean, his son plays on the team.
Well, I mean, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because they're over in Lithuania. ESPN has a writer or whoever following them, right? So they've bought into this Carnival Roadshow, the whole kit and caboodle, and it's all for links. I mean, it's no secret ESPN is struggling. It's losing its foothold on the whole landscape of sports media and that sort of stuff. So anything that's going to get clicks, and that's pretty much the measure of how successful a website or whatever is, clicks. Well, unfortunately, there's enough morons out there that will click on it and read these stories. I don't pay attention to it anymore, other than when I'm watching Sports Center at night, and you can't help but not hear it, right? But so the pushback has been with Rick Carlisle, Stan Van Gundy, Steve Kerr, very accomplished, smart basketball people within the game, know what they're talking about. But that's the thing. By them even invoking his name and crapping all over him,
makes it even more of a story.
Exactly. He doesn't care. People like him don't care.
Yeah. I liked Kerr's comment, just that he's kind of the Kardashians of the NBA, like the balls. So we'll see kind of how this all plays out. And I mean, the big baller brand over in Lithuania holding their own tournament and getting the team to withdraw from the Baltic League. So I mean, it is kind of interesting to see.
Well, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's things like that that's driving things in 2018.
Yeah. And then we've got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to run through this really quick. Trade deadline's coming up in the NBA. DeAndre Jordan's name's kind of being floated out there.
Let's move on to the hockey. We'll get to
the so, I mean,
want to cover all the sports a little bit.
There's really not too much going on in hockey. Just like I said, the All-Star Game's coming up.
Yep.
They've got the list posted, I believe, today of who made it, but I mean, most of the big names are there, so I mean, you can probably figure out who is on it, who isn't. There wasn't really too many surprises.
Did Crosby make it?
Crosby did make it, which is surprising. I guess a little surprising, but I mean, you have to pick a player from every team, and he's been the best on Pittsburgh so far this season.
Malkin didn't?
No Malkin.
I didn't see the list, so
Stamkos, Kucherov for Tampa, Matthews for Toronto.
Vasilevsky must have made it.
Vasilevsky, so I mean, Tampa's really well represented. Carey Price for Montreal as well, which I mean, he hasn't been the best goalie and hasn't even been close, but we won't get into that too much.
Well, you already said you got to take somebody from every team.
Yeah. The Leafs are kind of up and down. Bruins are really starting to look like the real deal. I mean, Tuukka Rask has kind of had a bum night a couple nights ago, but I mean, other than that, he's played phenomenal.
They still got a tie out of it, I guess. And but yeah, I mean, they're going to go as far as he's going to take them, right? And I mean, they have a good little nucleus of veterans and young up and comers. Be interesting to see if they do anything at the trade deadline. Yeah, who's out there, who's available.
I guess some big news for trade deadline too for hockey is just Montreal probably going to be sellers. So, I mean, Max Pacioretty's name's being thrown out. Alex Galchenyuk's name's kind of being thrown out. And, I mean, if you get rid of those two, how far, do you get rid of Price too? I mean, your haul on that would be huge. You might be able to accelerate a rebuild that way. But, so, I mean, that'll be interesting to kind of see what happens there. Edmonton's done for. So, I mean,
I think so.
I would kind of like to see them maybe go full-on sellers again. I mean, keep your nucleus.
Do you think the expectations were just too much for them?
I 100% think the expectations were too much. I think they were better last year than what they should have been and got a little bit lucky. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, McDavid's awesome. Draisaitl's really good.
Oh, they have very good. I mean,
they've got a good core.
Down here and then
Lucic, I mean, he's getting old too. I mean, they don't have really the depth. They've got the two top guys sort of thing, and then it kind of trails off. Mid-season awards, Nathan McKinnon really for Colorado's played phenomenal. So, I mean, I could see him kind of winning an MVP as well.
Oh, I think it's got to be Kucherov.
Kucherov's to go. Back and forth between him and Stamkos. Whoever kind of finishes the second half better, I think, will probably end up with the MVP there. Drew Doughty's playing like a tank again for the Kings. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up at the end of this season. Same as Erik Karlsson. It'll be kind of interesting to see where he ends up. Just always played so poorly.
Yeah, I think it'll depend on how far each team goes. I mean, if the Kings make it to the conference finals, maybe they'll be like, you know what,
we'll give you what you want.
Well, that's the thing. We're not done yet. We still have, we can still see another 5-year window of being really competitive in the thick of things. And maybe they, give Doughty what he's deserved. As far as Karlsson goes, I mean, if Ottawa keeps on going and the way that they have this year, maybe
the only thing I could maybe see if Karlsson's staying is just if he's been talking to Alfredsson, his fellow Swede, and I mean Alfie's played his whole career in Ottawa, so maybe he gets in his Karlsson's ear and says something. But as poorly as they're playing,
I think there's more than just more than just what happens on the ice at stake with that. I think the whole owner and threatening to move the team if fans didn't buy in, and
so
I think he's made it clear that he's not taking any discounts. So I think money is going to be, I think there's going to those factors are going to be playing into his decision, right? And see what other suitors come along.
And then for the other MVP awards or Rookie of the Year, I myself have Brock Besser for Vancouver Canucks, kind of ahead in the game right now.
He probably made the All-Star game.
Yeah, and he's playing phenomenal. Then there was a trade today as well for the Blackhawks to get rid of Artemi Panarin Richard Panik, for Anthony Duclair with the Phoenix Coyotes. So
he wanted out.
So for Chicago, I think that's a good move for them. 4 years younger, a lot of upside. Maybe playing with Taves and Kane will reach that potential. So, other than that, there's really not too much going on in hockey. Just like I said, just everybody kind of gearing up for the All-Star game, and the usual teams still winning. Vegas is still going strong, which is really surprising. But I think they're first in the Western Conference still. Blackhawks do need to kind of step it up. Pittsburgh kind of needs to step it up if they want to make the playoffs. But other than that, it's pretty well. Hockey players don't give us the drama like LeVar Ball does. So.
No, not as many talking points. No, that's for sure. Yeah.
But so that'll be it for tonight's show. I guess I can throw in, I got 30 seconds left, I think, so I can throw in a Liverpool move for soccer. They sold Philippe Coutinho to Barcelona for, I think, 160 million euros or something. Ends up, he has a $400 million buyout clause, so that's kind of interesting for me. But other than that, we will be back, and I believe the 29th will be our next show, and we will see you in 2 Mondays.